Our Computex 2024 coverage is made possible by Asus, G-Skill, Phanteks, Team Group, Lee, ASRock, Corsair, XPG, Thermaltake, Clev, Montech, and Seasonic. What's up guys, I'm Stuart from GGF and we're here at Phanteks and it is Computex 2024. Now get things out of the way first, Phanteks have done a bit of a revamp with their logo and their Phanteks font. So that looks pretty cool and it just goes to show the way they're going with some of the PC cases, which I have behind me, and we have some more to my left. We have some fans, they got a new RGB ecosystem, and then we have some awesome water cooling gear to check out. So first off here, we have the new Evolv X2. Now, first of all, I'm not sure on the naming for this. As you can see, this thing looks absolutely brilliant. We've got glass on the front, the side, and then on the back as well. Some of the back, it looks like the motherboard tray is absolutely floating. So for the Evolv, I've done a lot of builds in the Phanteks Evolv, and I think this is a completely different case altogether. So I think they could keep the Evolv name, but I think the X2 kind of means like a second edition, a second revision, something like that. So maybe they evolve and then they could come up with another name or then a different name altogether. Because personally to me, I think this looks completely different. It's got a lot more glass. It could be something more along the lines that it's evolved into this that the Evolv originally was. Now moving more on to this case, this is a very early engineering prototype, so quite a few things could change. Let's just take a look at the color options we have here. So it might be hard to pick up on camera. So this is all aluminum. I would say it looks kind of like a sandblasted satin type of aluminum, but it is brushed. You're probably not going to see that. And then they have another colorway, which is going to be the default black. So that'll be on the PSU shroud, the side, and also the top will be black. And then I'll get some B-roll. It's hard to see, but there is another one. Kind of looks like a champagne gold, a rose color, which does look really nice as well. Gives it a more smarter, modern look. Now inside, I'll get some close-ups. Obviously, this chassis is designed not do too much customization to, because what they've done is the fan areas, the top 360 and the bottom 360, the fans are nicely sit in there. So this case is going for 100% aesthetics. You're not going to be doing crazy custom loops. You're not going to be fitting 360 rads in, 480 rads, 420 rads. I've been speaking to the guys here at Phanteks. Maybe something in the future might be a larger version where we can get this aesthetics and then we can go nuts with something like custom loops and so on. Because even at the top here, the all-in-one cooler running in this one, the tubes actually go back a little bit because there is really just enough room for the three 120mm fans. So to get the tubing for those all-in-one cooling tubes, they do have to sit back a little bit and then they run down. Now, these two cases here are set up for the BTF form factor. So that's another option coming forward. Do you guys want to see options for standard cases, BTF? I was speaking to the guys at Phanteks and they did say for the non-BTF motherboards, there will be a side cutout so you can run an adapter. And something that's really cool on these cases, if we move over to this one on my left, which will be your right, might be wondering what the heck is this? It's going to be a little bit hard to see. I wish I had like a 24-pin red sleeved cable that I could run in here. Now, you've probably seen those crazy mods from those modders out there who do their own custom cables and then they make their own cable channels. And this is what this case has built in. It's got this awesome cable routing. Obviously, this is for your dual EPS. If you're only running a single, it would just be a single. And then this is for your 24-pin. So this one is designed for the BTF. The motherboard 24-pin will come out here and then it would run straight down into your PSU. And once you get this side panel on, it looks really neat. No excess cables. You don't need, in a traditional case, cable ties, Velcro clips, everything on the back. This has completely changed the way we cable manage our cases. Now, some other features on this case, it's got this kind of a podium look to it. I'll get some shots down lower and shoot them up with some B-roll. It just looks like it's floating. And as that motherboard sits out there, it gives you that perception that the motherboard is just hanging there out of sight. And it is kind of a little bit shame with this huge Strix GPU. It does cover a lot of that floating effect and you can't really see too much on it. But yeah, as I said before, I would love to see a larger version and then we could go with some crazy water cooling runs, reservoirs, and so on. Speaking about reservoirs and water cooling, Phanteks do have a lot of gear, which we'll be taking a look at a little bit later on. And in terms of RGB, I know everyone loves their RGB. It's going to be hard to see at the top. I'll get a shot of that. There is an RGB strip at the top, and then there is one at the bottom of the PSU shroud. And as I said earlier, prices ETAs, everything like that on these cases. I will put in the description so it is the most up to date for you guys. Moving on to some fans and some RGB products. Now, Phanteks have a new ecosystem they're calling NEXLINQ. So this is their fans. They have this interesting RGB, looks like 24-pin and your GPU cable, and then they have a hub as well. So starting with these fans here, these are their M25 G2 fans. They are, in a sense, daisy chainable. I'll get some close-ups of this. They don't really join together like their previous D30s where they clip together with a bracket. The cables simply run along one side, and then that would be the back side, which you don't see in the case. And then you just lock them together with a simple screw. And by doing that, they can be much cheaper. So a 3-pack of these, whether they're the 120s, the 140s, they're the same price. A 3-pack is $29.99 US. So basically $30 for a set of 3 fans. Now in comparison, 3 of their D30s are $89.99. So basically $90 US compared to $30 for these ones. And that'll be the same if you want the reverse, the normal flow, and if you want them in black, and if you want them in white. And they are much, much cheaper than other fans on the market. And they're also 25mm thickness instead of the D30s on their previous ones. So more on this ecosystem. They're moving away. If you're familiar with Phanteks, they've been using their JST connectors. So most companies are using the 3-pin RGB connector. That is your traditional one for your motherboard. Now, Phanteks have been using JST for quite a while now. So if you want to run that onto your motherboard, they normally provide a converter and adapter cable to run that. So now they're moving away from that. They're running sort of another connector, which is proprietary. It is a sort of a 6-pin connector. So what that is doing, that is allowing one connector to go from the fans here, and that'll do your RGB and your PWM fan signal and power all in the one connector, and then that will run into their new hub. So some things about this hub, it is a 2-channel, it's got an A and a B, so you can set different lighting effects for each channel. So things like when I'm doing a PC build, I always notice, so something like case RGB lighting, I like to run that RGB on a separate channel, then lighting on, say, like fans and so on. Because if you run it all on the one channel, most of the times they use different LEDs and the brightness and the color isn't always the same. So if you have 2 different channels, you can change the different color palette to match it exactly, and you'll get that color much, much nicer. More on this controller, it has 6-pin PCIe power. So for the 6-pin power, you need that because a lot of the RGB products and also these fans are consuming more power. Normally they've been using SATA in the past. Some companies use 2 SATA, some companies use Molex, but I think the 6-pin PCIe is the way to go. You just got to make sure your PSU does have that enough connectors if you're running a beefy AMD card that needs quite a few PCIe power. And then it's also USB controlled as well. You don't have to use their software. Mentioning software, they do have new software coming out. I'll throw some shots on that up on the screen. So this software will be able to control the fans, lighting control, and so on. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the 24-pin RGB cable here. Now, the main difference is this. I really like how this curves and there's no bending, no sort of weird shapes that are coming out of this curve. The difference with this than some other companies, there's quite a few companies doing these RGB cables. The actual cables can be seen as well. It's going to be hard from this shot. I'll get some close-ups. The cable runs alongside the RGB as well, so it's not behind like others are doing. It's actually running along the RGB lines as well, and that is in the black and the white. And for the black, you can see the individual black sleeve as well. Things like specs on the fans, I don't have any of that information yet. These are still early prototypes, so once I do get any information, I'll throw it in the description if they can provide that for me here. Now, we all know the Eclipse P400A. Now, this is the G400A, and there's also a G400N. Now, I'll get the difference of the naming out of the way first. The N will come with what I just covered before, the NEXLINQ Hub, which is this one here. So that'll be included. Obviously, the price will be a little bit extra for that. And then you also get this little cable channel here. Now, as you can see behind me on the board, this basically is a routing channel for your 24-pin. Now, this will clip on the back behind your motherboard tray. And there's a shot in this one. I'll get some B-roll so you can see it. And it does run out of your motherboard, down the sides. You can clip your cables in. Haven't seen how this works. So I'll have to get one, play it around, see how it works with things like stock cables. Obviously, if you've got a standard cable from a PSU that is a flat ribbon cable, it's not going to work unless you're going to pull off every single bit of ribbon. But these are definitely designed for things like the Phanteks PSUs where they collaborated with Cable Mod, where you get your custom cables from them. They include those and you can go with any color you want. As you can see, these red really pop on the back here. And then another feature with the G400N is the tempered glass on the back side panel has a bit of a cutout on, not the glass, it's just got a cutout so you can see through it, and then you can see your nice cable runs. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on these. Another feature I want to cover on these, and then obviously the G400A, which isn't the N, you don't get any of those features, and then you don't get that cutout on the glass. Now, one thing I want to cover is the interesting aspect on the front here. Now, these are 140mm version only for the fans. Now, that is because we've got this really interesting turbine looking infrastructure or setup around the fans. Now, this not only looks good, it not only covers all your fan screws, cables, things like that, but it also helps in performance. Now, a lot of cases that have a lot of holes and slits for say 120, 140. So if you were running 120s in a traditional case, you had a lot of cutouts here and a lot of cutouts here, and then you just put a big mesh front panel on. You're going to have air turbulence and you're going to sort of mess up your airflow, whereas this is going to channel your air straight in and it acts as a bit of an air duct to help that. And I do think it looks really cool. I'm actually looking at that now and I'm thinking if this area came in a different color and once you had this mesh on, if this was like a nice sort of a silver color or even a gold accent, sort of along the lines of their other cases, it would just be a little bit different and then it would make that pop a little bit nicer. But I just want to know your thoughts. Should you leave this just completely black, have it blend in? I don't even know what this material is. It's some type of plastic that's been molded. I'm sure it's not too easy to do, but it does look good. But yeah, definitely different color that would make that pop, which would be cool. But apart from that, most of the chassis is the same, but you do have a bit of a side area. It's going to be hard to see, but you do have a bit of a side to access your PSU and storage. And then we have a nice RGB lighting strip along the bottom. Now, just quickly on these two cases here, there will be a third. This is the NV5, there will be an NV7 and the NV9. Now, you might be wondering, hey, these are already out. They will be doing these in BTF and the Project Zero. So basically, back connector support. Both of these have the MSI Project Zero motherboards, and that is the only difference. Same price, same everything else. They come in the black, they come in the white, and we got the NV5, NV9, and they will be doing the NV7 as well. Now, this monster over here is the Enthoo Pro 2 Server XL. Now, last year, Phanteks had the Enthoo Pro 2 server, non-XL, and that was last year, but now they have this monster over here being the XL. Now, you might be wondering, I've seen this before. You've seen this massive case from Phanteks before because they've had the Enthoo Elite. Now, I've used the Elite many times. I absolutely love it, but this isn't a direct replica. The insides are kind of similar. It's more for server grade hardware. It does have the option to put wheels, casters on it because it would get quite heavy. Now, the main difference here, if you're familiar with the Elite, back in the days, I think it was a few years ago when they launched that. So that was all aluminum. The inside internal chassis was aluminum. The outside had gorgeous thick aluminum. It had RGB on the top, RGB on the front. It was an absolute monster. But this one is a trimmed down version. I wouldn't say on the size, it's more trimmed down on the materials because, hey, no one wants to spend, say, $600, $1,000 on a server chassis. The material here is some type of ABS plastic. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it is actually brushed. I'll try and get some real close-up shots on this. And the guys are saying this will be something like around $250, something like that. I'll put that in the description if that isn't right, but it'd be around $250 US for this massive case. And of course, plenty of storage down the bottom. And for those who just want to go with a full-out water-cooled build, not even going with a server, that is something you can do as well because you've got radiator support on the bottom, radiator support on top of the PSU shroud, you've got radiator support on the side, looks like 480 at the top and then 480 on the front as well. And I really like the way how they've done the ventilation at the front and the top. It's a different type of design than just having one flat 2D dimensional mesh. It's kind of larger holes in the front and you stepped back a couple of millimeters and then they've added slightly smaller rectangles for the front mesh. So give this optical illusion when you're looking straight on. It looks kind of solid when you're looking straight on, but when you're looking over to the side, you can see straight through. But really interesting case. And I'm actually glad Phanteks have kind of revived I wouldn't say they revived the Elite, but they've reused that chassis design because it was a really functional and unique chassis design and it did work well. So it's glad to see that they have gone down those routes with the Pro 2 XL Server Edition. And some things inside, of course, it's going to support all of your workstation boards and so on. And it's got this rail system here to hold your GPUs because there is a photo in front of me where they have a bunch of cards in there being held up, and this can be moved over as well into different locations. Alrighty guys, now lastly, before we finish up this video, I just want to cover some custom water cooling gear that Phanteks have, because they always like to dabble in a bit of water cooling. But before that, I do want to talk about the 140mm versions of their T30 fans. Now, they've always had the 120s. I've been always asking, when are you bringing these out in 140mm? Because these are very, very good performing fans, but they've been trying out different ways to get the material a more of a black fan, because we know the T30s, these are T30s over here, they're more of a gray, and the fan hub is also gray as well. So the LCP material is very hard to get it in that jet black fan like a traditional fan, because a lot of builds do stick out. If you're doing a white build, or you're stuck with this, if you're doing an all black build, it sticks out as well. And they've got a few versions here, and they're getting closer and closer to that more of a blackish fan. So that is good to see. So we'll stay tuned to when these might actually be coming out. Now moving over to their 2 custom water cooling kits. Now these are kits, yes. Phanteks are doing a full kit. This is a Glacier EZ-Fit, and it comes in a 360D30 kit, and then it comes in a same 360 kit, but it has soft tubing, and then the one over here is hard tubing. So basically you are getting a standard slim, looks like a 30mm 360 rad. Now both these kits come in the white and the black. And then I think they said the OEM for this is in China, and it's possibly Magical. They've been around for quite a long time, so that would be a decent radiator. But the main thing I do want to talk about, it's going to be hard to see, I'll get some very close-ups, is the way they've implemented these fittings into the rad, the CPU block, and also a better example is probably the pump as well. This is a nice looking D5 pump res combo in the back there, and I like how the D5 pump is pretty much fully submerged into the back of that. Now the way these fittings are done, they use the shark tooth fitting. If you're not familiar with those ones, there's no collar that goes onto your tubing first. The fitting is in there. You simply just push your hard tube in, and that is it. So the teeth inside bite down onto that tubing, and it does not come out. So I can probably do this. It's in there, and then to release it, you literally push down on this little collar, and then the tubing does come out like so. And apparently that'll be the same for the soft tubing. You just need to put an insert in it first, because if you try to push the soft tubing in without the insert, it's just going to collapse. But they've taken a little bit step further. Instead of just having the fitting go on your standard threaded ports, these are built into the actual components. So they're built into the pump res combo, they're built into the radiator, and they're built into the GPU block as well. So you don't need to purchase additional fittings. Now I spoke to the guys about, what about if you want to have a right angle that comes off here? This is not a G-quarter thread, so you won't be putting different fittings. These are absolutely massive. They will have adapters in case you do want to shoot off a right angle or so on. Now in terms of what you get in this kit, you get the radiator, you get a CPU block, you get the pump res combo, and then you get the tubing as well. Now you don't get a GPU block, which I think is good, because it's going to be impossible to get the GPU block for your GPU, whereas with your CPU block, this will do AMD and Intel, and that has you covered for just about every platform. Obviously workstation, that's going to be different, but this kit will get you everything you need except for your GPU block. You can then purchase their GPU block separately for what you have, whether it's like a Zeus, ROG, Aorus, MSI, whichever you want, and it does have the built-in shark tooth design as well, and then you have the top and the bottom port. So something very different. I will probably like to do a video on this, and just to see how the ease of use is, how it is working with pushing these fittings in and out every time, how many hours you get out of this, just constantly doing it. But I would assume that once you get your build done, that's it. You're not going to be going in and out, and you're not going to really be reusing these fittings, because they're stuck into the blocks and the items themselves. So very interesting way that Phanteks have gone about this. And I'll throw some shots on. They've got a setup of it over here, and then there's a setup on it on a PC in the NV5 in front of me, which I will show as well. But for prices on all of these, they're actually pretty cheap. I'll put that all in the description, so that is exactly what you need to know. So that's it at the Phanteks Computex 2024 suite. I'm really keen to take a look at that Evolv X2 chassis. It's going to be interesting to see what options they do go with, the colorway for the brushed aluminum and so on. But it'll be interesting to see your feedback on the ideas or changes you want on that case. Like, what's your thoughts on BTF? Would you like a BTF only version, a non-BTF version, and so on? And also the MSI Project Zero support on that chassis as well. But anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching. I want to thank Phanteks for letting us take a look at all these products, and we'll see you in the next one.